This is the planet on which we live. It's the only one we've got.
To go to the moon, we made some bold decisions.
That's Everest.
Mount Everest, the highest point on Earth.
Richard expected the greatest test was yet to come.
My lords, pray be seated.
It weighs a ton.
When you're close up, you can see how wonderful their wings are.
Isn't that just beautiful?
It's new to science. It's a new species.
This is a great moment where 3D has come of age in television.
The winner is Natural History Museum Alive!
The crucial missing piece in the theory of evolution.
A new member of the human ancestral tree.
The first tomb discovered in more than 80 years.
Right now, an exciting new discovery unearthed in Egypt.
3 mummies now become visible.
You see that? George Mallory.
Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever felt quite so small and insignificant.
The most impressive engineering feats the world has ever seen.
This is where the magic happens.
Oh! Right there. Now, 300 meters.
Great to be here. I don't know if it's a good slot or a bad slot after lunch, but everybody's had a good lunch. Well, hopefully it'll be all right. One of the joys of working with 100 people, and we have 5 companies at Atlantic, is that we all work together to tell stories over different platforms. And we've become very hooked on immersive storytelling recently. This started for me 22 years ago. When I went off to Silicon Valley, because when I started the company, I wanted to try and see the future of where the stories were going to be told. And so I went to Industrial Light and Magic, who could do almost anything with their amazing pyrotechnics. And I went across and I saw Pixar, and suddenly I could see stories being told on computer screens, and that stimulated my mind. And I managed to persuade Sun Microsystems, who was then a huge player, to back a virtual chariot ride. And I can tell you it was pretty crude in those days. That's the portal, and you could literally control the horses inside the portal. The man with the wand there is Michael Deering, along with Ivan Sutherland. I would call the founders of virtual reality, lucky enough to work with them, and storytellers like Gavin Scott, who did some of the Indiana Jones movies. So this is a representation, because of course going back and finding the data 22 years ago is very hard. So that's the Circus Maximus, when we were going to create chariot races going around. And then we managed to get, this is all representational, the horses were much better than this. You could actually steer them all in real time around and chase each other. And then we had a massive problem. Even with Sun's computing power, we were effectively in trouble, because we didn't have enough of anything to finish the experience. But it had set alight in my brain something that I wanted to get involved in. Flash forwards to 10 years ago, I started a relationship with David Attenborough to make 11 projects. And he actually finds it hard to switch his phone on because he has what I call a brick. And so, I've never seen such a phone. It has a spirit level on it. But actually, he loves technology. So we had a lot of talks about it. And we moved into the era of 3D thanks to Sky Television, and did lots of projects together. But as we did those projects, and this one in particular, where the museum came alive in 3D, we suddenly realized we were actually beginning to work in a 360 world, because for the IMAX version, we were having to plan everything in 360. And we were keen to get more eyeballs, even though our programs are getting 10 million or so, and millions around the world. You always want to find new eyeballs. So we started to work and go back to some of the series we'd made a few years earlier. This one about the 500 million years ago, the Cambrian Ocean. We had experts who managed to bring alive the actual creatures, and then you were able to literally swim with them through the Cambrian Ocean. Our next project together, again, these were what I call on-the-rails experiences. People liked them being on the rails, and they did incredibly well in museums all around the world, and continue to, actually. Great Barrier Reef was different, live action, quite complicated. We have to have a jaunt device inside the sub, and lots of cameras outside. But I think people got a huge kick from the idea that David Attenborough was actually there personally behind them in the sub. And they were able to literally, submarine's a great way to see virtual reality because you can see everything within the right, the right distance. So that put us on a journey to Simon Callow, and you walked into a lift at the BBC, suddenly told you about the wonders of opera. We then we worked with surgeons as we are now, operations where you can actually help the surgeons to scan the body and then work in 360. One of my favorite ones is actually the mantis shrimp. To be like a mantis shrimp is cool. That is one of the coolest creatures on the planet, I'm telling you. So, the Mungaruku. Now, the Mungaruku live on the Amazon, and they were having a hard time. The Brazilian government decided that they would start building dams and disrupt their lives. And so they appealed to Greenpeace. Greenpeace came to us, and we felt we wanted to tell a story with them about their lives. We just wanted you to go for 15 minutes and experience being a Mungaruku. Not an easy project. There's lots of problems with humidity and 100 other things. But we, and the Mungaruku love climbing trees, so we had to make sure we could climb trees. I'll give you that view. I like this. We let the Mungaruku just go off and sometimes tell stories to the camera. Very interesting stuff. But the Feelies, who are a group who specialize in sensory experiences, came along with us, and they bought a perfumer. And they bought people who could measure heat. And so when we delivered the experience in Sao Paulo, in pods, I was skeptical, to be honest with you, whether this would work, but it was extraordinary. It's like that cut grass feeling that you remember sometimes when you're growing up. That triggers memories. This triggered huge memories because the Mungaruku talk about their world in a really interesting way. And believe it or not, the government is not building any dams for the Mungaruku. Well, the ministers saw it and they got moved too. So it was a real empathy project. Just to dip into another project, we were lucky enough to work with Judi Dench, one of the first documentaries ever made. And she's passionate about trees. We made a BBC One documentary. But we let her loose on her favorite tree, an oak tree. And we scanned it in exact detail, all the leaves and branches and everything else. And she takes you on a journey, an interactive journey, because you can go where you want in the tree. She goes on that journey with you and takes you on that journey. And it had a lot of impact. It hasn't been released properly yet. But I love the interactivity. I mean, you find out how many leaves it's got, how old it is. Quite interesting. So, space descent. We'd worked a number of times with the Science Museum, and we were looking to collaborate on something. And then one day I heard that they had purchased the Soyuz capsule from the Russians. Now, that's a tough thing to do, but somehow they managed to do it. And they came to us and said, what can you do with that? What's the story you can tell? Okay.
Three, two, one. Starting deorbit burn. There's no room for error.
Okay, this is an experience none of us in this room, I'm sure, but having said that, there probably will be an astronaut here, are never going to do. So we decided, let's get Tim Peake to help us to follow his journey in that thing. What I didn't realize is that ESA are sticklers for everything. So they wouldn't let us do one thing that wasn't accurate, which meant we had to get photorealism involved, we had to get photogrammetry involved, I mean, tough stuff. So obviously that's sitting in the capsule. So the complications of this were quite extraordinary, because every single moment you're inside the capsule, which is exactly the right size that you're in, you're looking at different things. And we need to make sure that what you're looking at is exactly what Tim Peake looked at. And that's hard work, so we had to build all sorts of models to make that work for us. And then we had to kick people, because we needed the right sense of the motion that Tim had on his journey coming back from space. And it was delivered in the Science Museum, and then I think it's about 4 or 5 other venues across Britain, and has been incredibly popular. I would love the fact that we had motion chairs and everything, but there was a need to get it in quickly and we didn't have them. Nobody's actually complained, but I know we could revisit it and do something even more exciting. One of the things I'm most excited to be involved with in this is that the museum, along with Samsung, got a bus, very smart little bus, and it goes around underprivileged areas of the country. And it parks up, and kids come out who can't even afford a mobile phone, and they experience what it's like to be an astronaut. And some research, I think, has been done on following what happens and what the expectations of those kids, and it changes them, because it fires them up in a way they never expected. And that's what immersive experiences can do. And I'm really proud of the fact this thing's going around the country and hitting people who don't even have a phone. Okay, so we also, on this little gallop through what we've been doing, we've been doing some AR experiences with some manufacturers who think it's not cool to go with VR, but want to go AR, and you can work out who that is. So we have scanned the Great Pyramid, every detail of it, put it in a huge supercomputer. You hold up your phone as a kid, and all of us in this room could walk in now to the Great Pyramid, which was pretty exciting, really, if I can get there. And you can experience the Great Pyramid in exact detail, and all sorts of things happen to you, of course. But that's, we don't always need the headsets. Okay, now we're talking about changing the technology which is going to make our storytelling more powerful. So we're talking about AI, and we're talking about tracking the face and the emotions on your face. So we have a project, and this is where we want to R&D it. It's very hard to R&D this straight into a storytelling. So we're working with Harvard University, Harvard Medical School rather, and using the tracking with MTech, a very, very creative company. And here we go. Let's see.
In collaboration with Harvard Medical School and some amazing tech partners across the world, we're developing a system that will change the lives of patients with autism, schizophrenia and dementia. It combines the very latest in virtual reality technology with cutting-edge artificial intelligence.
The disconnect between what a patient is thinking and feeling and what they're outwardly expressing is a major problem in a variety of social interactions. Patients become more isolated, more alone, begin to feel more helpless and hopeless. The treatment will be helpful because it allows patients to have an AI-based tool for mastery of what they're feeling and what they're outwardly expressing or communicating to the outside world.
I think what's exciting about that project is in pure storytelling terms, is that there's no other medium that I know where I could be tracking your face and emotion and change the story for every single person in this room, every single time they do that experience. Complicated storytelling, but it's now within our grasp. So, where are we at the moment with this storytelling business in the immersive worlds? Well, I believe that there are some amazing projects out there, and you come across them almost by chance. I also believe we are 10% of a journey of 100%. So we haven't seen anything yet, so you can scrub all this. This is just rehearsals. I think there's some big problems. There's problems with lack of funding, because there's no business models, very hard things to succeed with, lack of skills. I also think the right technology isn't here yet. But there's one thing I do know, and that's, as storytellers, what we now need to do is stop worrying about MR, VR, AR, or whatever other R you want to throw at us, but actually demand that the technology tells the stories that we want to tell, because without that, this medium is not going to live up to its massive, massive potential. Just recently, there was a report come out that said that headsets at home are falling off, or viewership at home, and they're getting dusty. Headsets are getting dusty, which is very sad. So something I believe is that that we are going to have to find places that are going to excite people, where they can go in with the best technology available. We can put these domes here, it's on the South Bank, we can put them in museums, but the places where people will get excited that they've got the best technology and the best storytelling. And I think we're going to hopefully lose at some point the headsets and go into glasses in these domes, where we can just interact with the space around us and use other forms of communication to get through the journey. And there is one such experience, because I'd be foolish if there wasn't, that I believe, I hope and I believe will deliver this. I was extremely lucky to be rung by the team from Stephen Hawking's office to say that he wanted to see me. And I visited him, and I was absolutely amazed that he had this idea of capturing a film of his life where we would interview him, and he'd talk about his whole life, which we've done, and we're in the process of making that to a theatrical film. And secondly, he had in his head an experience that he wanted to take everybody in this room and everybody on this planet, he wanted to take them in virtual reality or immersive storytelling on a journey to black holes and beyond. I can't think of a more perfect person to narrate that story. This will be totally interactive, cinema quality graphics. And you'll literally go with him. And there's going to be a guide on your shoulder, and that's going to be Stephen Hawking. And he's narrated and captured. So long after his death now, people will go on that journey and hear him speak. So all I can say is that I think there is so much potential in this medium, but we've got to demand that storytellers tell stories and that we drive it forwards. And I can tell you, when it works, when you've got someone in experience, when you hear someone afterwards doing a great experience, there is nothing like it on this planet. There's a lot of work to do. Thank you very much.